Learn English through stories. Intermediate English. Pollyanna. The Glad Game. In a town where smiles were rare and hearts were heavy, one little girl arrived with a secret game. With nothing but her courage and sunshine spirit, Pollyanna set out to change sadness into gladness and transform an entire community forever. Listen to the story, read along, and improve your English while discovering the power of gratitude. A girl named Pollyanna. Pollyanna, a young girl with a heart full of sunshine, arrived in the town of Beldingsville. She had lost her parents and was coming to live with her Aunt Polly, a woman she had never met. The town seemed quiet and grey, but Pollyanna carried a special secret game that she hoped would bring a little colour to everyone's lives. A gloomy town. Beldingsville was a place where smiles were rare. The houses stood in neat, stern rows, and the people hurried along the streets with their heads down. They were so used to their gloomy routines that they had forgotten the simple joy of a sunny day or a friendly hello. It was a town that desperately needed a change of perspective. Aunt Polly's stern house. Aunt Polly was a woman of duty and discipline. Her house was spotless and her heart was guarded. She loved her niece in her own way, but didn't know how to show it. She gave Pollyanna a small bare room in the attic, believing that children should be raised with practicality, not with frivolous things like pictures or comfortable furniture. An attic with a view. Pollyanna looked around her simple attic room. There were no pictures on the walls, no rug on the floor, and only a small cot to sleep on. But high above, there was a window with a beautiful view of the town and the tall trees beyond. "I'm so glad there's a window," she thought. "I can see the whole world from here." The Glad Game. At dinner, Aunt Polly was puzzled by Pollyanna's cheerful chatter. "What have you to be glad about?" she asked. Pollyanna explained her special secret, the Glad Game. The rule was simple. In every situation, no matter how difficult it seemed, you had to find something to be glad about. Aunt Polly just sniffed, unimpressed by such a silly notion. How the game began. "My father taught me the game," Pollyanna explained. "We were missionaries and didn't have much. One day I was hoping for a doll in the charity barrel, but we got a pair of crutches instead. I was so sad, but Father told me to be glad about the crutches because I didn't need to use them. That's how the game began." Meeting Mr. Pendleton. Pollyanna decided to teach the game to the townspeople. She started with Mr. Pendleton, a wealthy but lonely man who lived all by himself in a grand mansion. He grumbled that he had nothing to be glad for. "You can be glad you don't have to worry about other people," Pollyanna suggested cheerfully. Her words caught him by surprise. A lonely man reflects. Mr. Pendleton couldn't stop thinking about the strange little girl and her game. He had spent years feeling sorry for himself, but her simple words had planted a tiny seed of a new idea. For the first time in a long time, he looked at his big empty house and thought, maybe she was right about something. Visiting Mrs. Snow. Next, Pollyanna visited Mrs. Snow, a woman who had been confined to her bed for years and did nothing but complain. She complained about the food, the sunlight, and the quiet. Pollyanna listened patiently and then said, "You can be glad other people have to get up and walk around. Your hands still work perfectly for knitting." a smile returns. Mrs. Snow was annoyed at first, but the girl's relentless optimism was infectious. She started to focus on what she could do, not what she couldn't. Soon she was knitting colourful blankets for others and finding things to be glad about from her window. A small, genuine smile began to replace her constant frown. Dr. Chilton inspired. Even the town's kind but melancholic Dr. Chilton was touched by Pollyanna's spirit. He had a secret sadness in his past that kept him from being truly happy. Pollyanna's simple wisdom reminded him that there was still so much good in the world and that it was never too late to find happiness and love again. A town transformed. Slowly but surely, Beldingsville began to change. The sound of laughter could be heard on the streets. People started greeting each other, sharing stories, and helping their neighbours. The town that was once grey and gloomy was now filled with the bright colours of friendship and joy, all thanks to one little girl and her simple game. Aunt Polly softens. Aunt Polly watched the transformation with astonishment. She saw how Pollyanna's game had brought light into so many dark corners, and she felt her own guarded heart begin to soften. The strict rules of her house seemed less important than the warmth and love that her niece had brought into it. She was starting to understand. New friendships bloom. Mr. Pendleton and Mrs. Snow, once the town's biggest grumblers, were now often seen chatting together. He would bring her books from his library, and she would knit him warm scarves. They had found friendship and something to be glad for in each other, a connection they never would have made without Pollyanna's help. The town learns gratitude. The entire town had learned to play the glad game. They found gratitude in small things: a warm loaf of bread, a child's laughter, a beautiful sunset. Beldingsville was no longer a place of shadows, but a community united by a shared sense of optimism and thankfulness. Pollyanna's joy had become everyone's joy. A terrible accident. Then, one day, a terrible accident happened. A motor car struck Pollyanna, and her legs were badly injured. The doctors said she might never walk again. The brightest light in Beldingsville was suddenly plunged into darkness, and for the first time Pollyanna couldn't find a single thing to be glad about. Pollyanna's darkest hour. Pollyanna lay in her bed, her heart as broken as her body. The game that had helped so many others now felt like a cruel joke to her. How could she be glad about anything when she couldn't run or play or even stand? The sunshine she had brought to everyone else had vanished from her own life. Aunt Polly's love. Aunt Polly sat by her niece's bedside, her heart aching with a love she had only recently learned to express. She felt helpless and lost, unable to comfort the little girl who had taught the whole town how to be happy. All she could do was hold Pollyanna's hand and wish she could take away her pain. The town rallies. When the townspeople heard the news, they knew they had to help. Mr. Pendleton was the first to visit. He told Pollyanna how glad he was that she had taught him to find joy in his life. He said that because of her, he had decided to adopt a lonely orphan boy, giving him a home and a family. Glad messages arrive. Soon, a flood of visitors and messages arrived. Mrs. Snow sent a message saying how glad she was for her hands that could knit a warm blanket for Pollyanna. The whole town, one by one, shared what they were glad about, all things they had learned from her. They were playing the game for her, a spark of hope. Dr. Chilton brought the best news of all. He had consulted with a specialist who believed that with a difficult operation and a lot of hard work, Pollyanna would be able to walk again. There was hope. A tiny spark of gladness began to glow within Pollyanna's heart once more, fanned by the love of her friends. Gladness returns. From her window, Pollyanna could see the people of Beldingsville. They were all looking up at her, waving and smiling. They were returning the gift of gladness that she had given them. She realized that the love and joy she had spread had come back to her when she needed it the most. Surrounded by love, surrounded by flowers, letters, and the overwhelming love of her community, Pollyanna finally found something to be truly glad about. She was glad for her friends, for her loving Aunt Polly, and for the hope of walking again. She understood that even in the darkest times, there is always a reason to play the glad game. Reasons to be glad. Pollyanna did learn to walk again, and Beldingsville was never the same gloomy town again. It remained a place filled with gratitude and joy, a testament to how one person's perspective can change the world. Pollyanna and her Aunt Polly, now a true family, continued to find something to be glad about in every single day. What about you? Pollyanna changed her whole town with the glad game, finding something to be thankful for in every situation. If you played it right now, what is one thing in your life you'd be glad about? Share your answer in the comments below. Your words could bring hope to someone and change their life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share for more fun English lessons.